Well, welcome comic book, superhero, and pop culture fans. This is Comic Book Central, where comic books come to life. The world's first podcast devoted exclusively to in-depth interviews with the talented folks who bring comics to life in film, television, animation, video games, podcasts, and beyond. I am your host, Joe Stuber, and if you are listening to this episode the day it goes online, then happy Free Comic Book Day. Happy Star Wars Day. All of it. This is the big one, right? The nexus of Nerdvana, the confluence of pop culture classics. May the 4th be with you all. Hope you grabbed the funny books you wanted. Got mine, as always, from the fine folks at Pack Rat Comics here in Columbus. Picked up some other items while I was there as well. Always support your local comic book shop. That's what we want to do. We need them so much these days. Glad you are all continuing the celebration by tuning into the show. Talk about pop culture. I recently visited the Pop Culture and Comics Convention FanExpo Cleveland, and I'm going to be bringing you a bit of the flavor from that event. Now, the Cleveland show is just one of several brought to you by FanExpo. As this episode is airing, the Philadelphia show is going on. Coming up, Dallas, Boston, Denver, Chicago, Toronto, many others. For a full list of events, head to their website. It's fanexpohq.com. I'm going to put that link in the show notes for this episode at my website, comicbookcentral.net. Everything we're talking about today, links are going to be in the show notes at the episode, comicbookcentral.net. So that's your one-stop shopping for all the links. Be sure to check that out. And while you're at the website, man, check the archive for any episodes of Comic Book Central you might have missed. There's a lot of them out there. Been doing this for quite a while. So if you're new to the show, welcome. There's a lot of episodes you can check out. You can also find the show at Spreaker.com, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon, wherever the coolest podcasts are found. The Comic Book Central lair is there. And share the lair. Share these episodes on social media. If you're grabbing your funny books on Free Comic Book Day, share them with all your friends at the comic book store. Like this should be the show all of the comic book fans are listening to. I post every episode on Facebook. I post it on Twitter. Yeah, the URL is Twitter, so that's what I'm calling it. If they can't be bothered to change it, I'm calling it Twitter. At comicbookctrl on Twitter, facebook.com/Comic Book Central Network. Love when you share the show with others. Huge show to get to today. Several guests set to join us. First, I'm going to pay a few bills. Then I'm taking you along on my adventure to FanExpo Cleveland. All right, before we get to my interviews at FanExpo Cleveland, I want to mention that I got to meet up with a few folks that I didn't get a chance to record with, but who are friends of the show. From Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I got to meet Jeff Ward in person. That was very cool. Now, my Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. chat with Jeff, along with his castmate Henry Simmons, you can check that out on episode 324. I'm looking to book some time with Jeff in the near future for a more in-depth conversation about his career. He said he'd be cool with that, so looking forward to that. And the beautiful voice behind Ariel from Disney's The Little Mermaid, the equally beautiful and talented Jodie Benson. Now, I got to moderate Jodie's Q&A a few years ago in Cincinnati, and you can hear that conversation. That's on episode 297. That was, what a wonderful year for that. We celebrated the 30th anniversary of The Little Mermaid. So here in Cleveland, it was good to catch up with Jodie again. All right, the chats I was able to record at FanExpo. First up, the man behind the marketing of FanExpo shows, Jerry Milani. Now, Jerry and his team work tirelessly to get the word out about FanExpo, and they are wrangling all of the aspects of the shows all weekend long, year in, year out. I did get to catch up with him mid-sprint to talk about the exciting things about the Cleveland show and what's on tap for future FanExpos. Here is PR manager Jerry Milani. Welcome back to Cleveland. How was just starting here? It's early on a Friday, but how are things looking so far?
Yeah, for early on a Friday, we're really excited about how many fans are out, especially in the exhibitor area. They're all checking out the artwork. I think they're getting that chance to get the first crack at exclusives before they get away, so that's why a lot of people come out on Friday.
Okay, a lot of shopping on Friday, and you got some of the celebrities are here too. So it's not February in Cleveland. It's actually April, so a little bit better, I think, weather-wise. Hopefully. How are the attendance figures looking for the week, for the sales for the weekend?
Yeah, I got to go to a Guardians game for the first time because
good.
I haven't been in town any time that I've been here since 2015.
That's right.
Sales are great. The idea that people are coming out, going to enjoy the weekend here, I think that the best pop culture festival is the FanExpo Festival.
Yeah.
When Wizard World brought the show and FanExpo, there hasn't been a show like either of those here in a long time. And people showed, even the very first year that we did the show here in 2015, through a snowstorm, and then through a pandemic, people have come back and in full force.
You got a lot of hobbits this weekend. What can you tell us about that?
There's 4 of them. Those
Yes.
would be the 4 hobbits. They're excited about being out here, meeting the Cleveland fans. A great event on Saturday night with all of them at 7:30 for fans to come out and just see them. And it's a special reunion. Anytime they get together, they like to go. They all go out to dinner together. They really are friends in real life, and they were brought together by a phenomenon that you never know when something like that is really going to hit or isn't, and it really did. And the people respond by coming anytime the 4 of them get together. There's big crowds and big excitement.
Pretty good mix of guests, a lot of hitting all areas of pop culture. What can you tell us about this weekend show here in Cleveland, and then some shows you got coming up?
Yeah, I think that you see in the anime area and the animation voice actor area that area has taken off for us. Every show, they're all here on Friday, and people come on Friday to meet them because you get a little extra time with them. So, and that's for fans of all ages. So Kathleen Hurlis is here, Dora the Explorer. Well, that's not just for the kids. That's for the parents who grew up with her being Dora, and now she's Dora's mom in the new series that just came out and dropped today. So I think that the opportunity for fans to see all of those different folks that you talked about, whether it's from the celebrity area or if you go in the exhibitors or you go to our programming panels and you just see the diversity, and I talk about diversity in every different way, age groups, genres, and every potential demographic that there is.
And the comics creators, I got Jay Lee, I think Stephen Platt, I think, is coming out too. I just remember those Moon Knight covers back in the day. They were so McFarlane-esque too.
Yeah, the 30 or 35 or so that are in that front area represent every cross-section of every comic and every series you've ever seen or ever heard of or ever read. And again, it represents, like you said, the diversity of the types of fandom that's here and the types of people who love all those things.
What's next on the docket? What's coming up next for FanExpo?
So we have Calgary in a couple of weeks and then Philadelphia in 3 weeks, and it starts to get busy as the summer goes on.
There you go. So, Jerry, I'm going to let you get back. I know you're running 6 ways to Sunday, literally. So thanks again for joining me.
Happy to be here.
All right, friend of Comic Book Central and star of Star Trek The Next Generation, Brent Spiner. He's been playing the character of Data for so many years now. He was back in the Buckeye State. All right, you longtime listeners know that if Brent is in Ohio and I'm at the event as well, I bring him pie. If you're not sure why I bring him pie, you can go back and listen to the episode. It's 116. It's my in-depth interview with Brent Spiner. Suffice it to say, he doesn't do many interviews. He's very select with these. But episode 116, that's a great one. We got to chat about so many different things. And I do have sort of a streak going on where I've been able to chat with him at events. That's where the pie comes in. It's kind of an inside joke right now. But the last 2 go-rounds, you might recall, Cincinnati Comic Expo, actors strike, so really couldn't get into specific chatting about Picard. Then GalaxyCon Columbus, Brent unfortunately got laryngitis that weekend, so we weren't able to chat. So definitely making up for some lost time at FanExpo Cleveland. Time for some Trek talk and much more with the one and only Brent Spiner.
Back in Cleveland, where it all started, our pie journey together, back in Cleveland. So welcome back to Comic Book Central, Brent Spiner.
Thank you so much, Joe. So happy to be here. I'm always eager to come to Ohio so I can get some free pie.
Why wouldn't you? I mean, that's the deal now. And thanks to my OCD, I have to keep my streak going. So
Well, exactly. Actually, it's your amnesia. You forget you've already given me pie, so you keep bringing it every time, which is great.
But I know I can get interviews out of you if I bring you pie. Now, that said, 2 times ago, actors strike, couldn't talk a whole lot.
Right.
Columbus, Ohio, laryngitis.
Right.
So, okay, now I finally get to ask you about an iconic character, beloved around the world, one you've played decades ago, brought back, everybody was talking about it, made headlines everywhere. Of course, I'm talking about Bob Wheeler from Night Court.
Yes.
I can't tell you what a smile that brought to my face when I saw all of you there reuniting. So what was it like to come back to Night Court after all these years?
Well, it was really great. And they had, by the way, some excellent pie, too.
Not as good as Doe Mama.
No, not as good as Doe Mama. And may I say this, by the way, before I answer your question? If you would show up and want to interview me without pie, that would not be possible.
That's what I figured.
So, yeah,
like Night Court pie.
Night Court was really fun. It was great. Lara Cat was still there, which was nice. And Melissa Rausch, who it's her show, really. Her and John, they produced the show. Wonderful young woman. Great to see Annie O'Donnell, who played June. Hadn't seen her since last. I saw her once after that on the Paramount lot. And Kate Micucci, terrific young lady who played our daughter. That was really fun. And they treated us like legends that we are. And
that's all they should.
Yeah. So it was really nice. I have to say, my family, tries to watch what I'm in. Not my wife and son. They watch nothing that I'm in, which is fine with me because neither do I. But my aunt phoned me to say she had seen it. And she said, it really wasn't your best work. And I really appreciate always getting, a critique from my aunt,
Nice. Well, it's honest.
Yeah, it's honest.
Keeps you humble.
And it's uneducated, all at the same time.
Did you go back and watch some of the original episodes of Night Court to just sort of get back in the character again? And can you give us a little Bob Wheeler?
No, I can't give you any Bob Wheeler because you'll have to pay much more than a pie for that.
Oh, man. I thought the pie would have done it.
No, but if you brought a whole pie, I might have done it.
You did slip into it on a previous episode, but that's okay.
Did I?
You did. I got a little bit out of it.
All right, well, you can replay it.
Just play that.
I'll tell you the truth. I had already done that character when I was a kid in Houston, and my friends and I would be in the Denny's or something, and I would order a piece of pumpkin pie, or a tall boy slips or something, and so I couldn't believe they let me do that and actually paid me for it.
But what was your question anyway? But before
did you watch the?
Did I watch it?
Yeah.
No, the old show, not to kind of get prepared. I did not. June, Annie O'Donnell watched it, but she said she had to remember what she was doing. But I had, this character was based on Bob Wheeler was. I based him on a character I used to do when I was a kid at home. And so when I auditioned for it, I thought, gee, I wonder if I can get away with this. And so I did this character that I called Elmo when I was a kid, and they hired me. So I can do Elmo anytime with who is actually Bob Wheeler.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was it fun reminiscing with it? Like, did you talk about Harry and so many of the cast is gone now too.
Oh, yeah, so many. Well, I knew them all, really well. I mean, Flo took me to the Emmys with her. I knew Harry before and after the show. As a matter of fact, I did a special for Harry. He had a TV special that I did, the Harry Anderson special, and I forgot all about that. It was me and John Ritter, and a wonderful actor who was on Newhart. He was on Bosom Buddies. He was the other guy with
Peter Scolari.
Yeah, really great guys, and most of all, I knew Charlie Robinson, who played Mac, who he and I got our equity cards together at the Houston Music Theater one summer, and when we were kids. So, yeah.
I want to get the quote right. In 2016, when I interviewed you, I asked you about you returning to the role of Data.
Yeah.
You said, we're done.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the others could return, but I don't think I could because I'm too old. It's not going to happen.
Right.
Okay, it's happened twice now.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit of how you approached the character in Season 1, and what was the pitch to you for Season 3?
Well, Season 1. What was it about Season 1? How did I?
Sort of like you came into role. Yeah. How did you come into this? And I mean, it's sort of like a different version of him, but then he still dies. I mean,
Well, they actually pitched it to me. They brought me in, and really talented guys. It was Alex Kurtzman and Michael Chabon, who's maybe the greatest novelist in America, and Akiva Goldsman, who won an Oscar for A Beautiful Mind, and they were writing the show, and they said, we really want Data, and I said, well, they said, you don't have to do a lot, it's just like 2 episodes, little pops, and I said, well, how do I play Data? I mean, first of all, I would have said yes just to work with those guys, but they, because they're really excellent writers. And they said, well, how would I do it? I don't look the same, And they said, well, we're going to do CGI. You'll look fantastic. You'll look just like you did. And so after we shot the first day, they came up to me and said, I think you look okay. We're not going to do. And I was like, wait a minute. You said you were going to do CGI. Anyway, I looked horrible, I think, but the scenes were really good.
And then in season 3 coming back, they got the band back together again.
Yeah, season 3. I just didn't want to be home, while all my friends were having fun.
They're playing in the sandbox.
Yeah,
with all the toys.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so Terry Metalis, who put that show together the whole season, and did a miraculous job. Had an idea, and we kind of talked about it and worked on it together, and made me really writers very accessible to me to be able to say this works for me or that doesn't. How about if we do this? That kind of thing. And so it was fun to do, and it actually worked.
Did you get overwhelmed when you stepped back on the bridge for the first? Because they recreated everything.
Right. Not really. I'll tell you why. We were there for days, it wasn't when we stepped on the bridge, we'd seen it already for a week, Yeah. When we walked out, we went, wow, this is pretty good. This looks exactly like the original bridge. But we all did say the same thing. It's a little smaller than it was. I don't think it was. I think it was exactly the same, but it just felt smaller.
We all get bigger.
Right, exactly.
Some of the cast is saying they want to come back. They want to do a feature film.
Yeah.
Patrick Stewart said he wants to do a feature film.
Yeah.
You, Brent Spiner?
I will never do it again.
As you said in 2016.
Exactly.
All right.
And I will repeat that. I will not come back and do it again. How can I, really? Haven't I done the whole journey so far?
Of course you have. And we'll see you on the silver screen then.
Yeah.
As Data.
All right. Beautiful.
Yeah. What do you got going on next?
I'm pretty old. They don't write that much good stuff for old guys. And, if they did, I'd be happy to do it. But, anything that I'm really right for, Anthony Hopkins does it. So,
Fair.
I don't know, whatever comes up, I'm available.
Thanks for coming back to Comic Book Central, and come back to Ohio, and I'll bring you more pie.
Okay, Joe. Sounds good. Thanks so much. Appreciate you.
Next up at FanExpo Cleveland, actor Ethan Suplee. You know him from his work in Kevin Smith's films Mallrats, Chasing Amy, Dogma, Clerks 2 and 3, the TV series My Name Is Earl. Love that television series. I was honored to have a very revealing chat with Ethan where we talked about how his most important work is so very personal to him. And yes, while I was there, I did get to ask him if there's any update on the eagerly anticipated sequel to Mallrats. So let's check in with Ethan Suplee.
We'll talk about your roles here in a little bit, but I must say, fans of some of your previous roles may or may not recognize you on occasion. I think you've talked a little bit about that. Even one of the items, one of the photos on your table that you're signing. Can you talk a little bit about how you got into fitness and where that all came about? And I think you even launched a podcast with it too, didn't you?
Yep, I got a podcast called American Glutton where we just talk about physical goals, health journeys, diets, different diets. I got sober in 2001. I had a pretty bad drug problem, and then I spent a year kind of like rearranging my life to work with sobriety. And in 2002, I woke up one day and was like, oh, I have a whole other issue I've got to deal with. And so I started dieting. It took me almost 20 years to realize that a diet is not really a solution. Not quite 20. It took me about 15 to realize that a diet isn't a solution because I would lose weight and then gain the weight back.
And that's typical with a lot of folks.
90% or 99% of diets result in weight regain.
Right.
And I got kind of sick of that and just started working rather than focusing on a diet as a solution. I started focusing on my behavior and my health and my compulsions, and really I kind of applied the same principles that I applied to sobriety to my behavior with food. The tricky part is that you can't you can't be abstinent from food. You got to eat. I can be abstinent from drugs and alcohol and survive just fine, much better.
Right. Food a little.
It's tricky. And, you know, I got to a place where I've been this weight for 6 years now. I've maintained this, and I exercise 6 days a week, and every health metric is dramatically improved. And so I talk about that a lot, you know.
Have you noticed it's having any kind of impact on some of the roles that you're offered? Because so much of your career, you've been in everything. And I think you've talked about this before, too, is that you notice maybe, like, depending on what you're putting on, what you're taking off, it's different roles being offered to you. Have you noticed that? And how does that impact you just as an actor?
Yeah, there was definitely a point, I think, in 2012 that I didn't get a couple of roles simply because I was not heavy anymore.
Was that more like you're super duper jacked and you're like in the gym and like doing those videos, or was that?
No, that's more recent.
Okay.
But I like gave up on my diet and gained weight again. Got another TV show, TV show, and then at one point I was just like, you know what, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
I would rather be healthy and happy and physically comfortable. And if work is impacted, then that's okay.
Right.
And it's not. I've done a couple of TV shows. I've got a TV show right now that'll start airing on Amazon in October. I've start a movie in June, and I've got a couple movies coming out. And so, like, I'm still working.
Yeah. Just in a different space. I think do producers or casting agents sometimes think, oh, comedy, he's better when he's bigger, or he's funnier when he's bigger. Is it anything like that? Or because I know you said one of the roles you got, it was like this really change of pace for you too.
Yeah, but I was still pretty big during that show. I was pretty heavy when I did that show.
Okay.
That show we did in 2016.
So they're seeing the range now.
Yeah.
They're getting a chance to see the range and not just, okay.
Yeah.
What's been your experience working with Kevin Smith? And I think you've just worked with him again recently, right? Or about to?
I did. The last movie I did with him, I just did a very, very small thing in Clerks 3 with him. But I have done a lot of movies with him.
Okay.
The first movie I ever did was with Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
And then, I'd go and stay at his house in New Jersey, and we became good friends. And he's an amazing, amazing guy. And he's built this wild empire, He's a really, really incredible guy.
Is Twilight of the Mallrats, is that part of this empire? Is this...
We did a script reading for that recently.
Okay.
The script is incredible.
Okay.
We were all dying laughing. The people we did it for were dying laughing. That is complicated because Mallrats was made for a production company called Gramercy, which Universal owned. And as of today, Universal does not want to make Twilight of the Mallrats.
Okay.
But there are other production companies that would make it in a heartbeat, but Universal wants a piece without putting up any money, and that makes it complicated.
Okay, so this is this whole Sony, Marvel, Disney, Spider-Man thing coming into play, right?
Totally.
Who gets what?
Yeah.
So I know your buddy Jason Lee's going to be here this weekend. So you guys are ready to go with it. Do you think, if you were laying odds, do you think this might happen? And
listen, I've been attached to movies that were guaranteed sure things. There was a point where Jim Caviezel and I were attached to a movie, I believe it was a retelling of Robin Hood set during the Revolutionary War, something like that.
Okay. Very high concept.
Yeah. That movie was happening, and then it wasn't. There are lots of movies that are happening, and then they're not. I don't believe it until I'm standing on set.
I know Adam Baldwin told me when the check clears, then I'll start believing it.
Sure.
So that's fair. I get that too. The Pradeeps of Pittsburgh, is that one that's coming up? Because I'm from the Pittsburgh area. So
cool.
What can you tell us about this film?
That is about an Indian family that moves to Pittsburgh and gets me and my very white Christian wife as neighbors. and there's some tension between the households.
Okay.
That's what I can tell you.
Drama, comedy?
Comedy.
It is a comedy.
Yeah, and
Did
it's
you
very
shoot in
funny.
Pittsburgh?
No, we shot in Toronto.
Oh,
I
okay.
know.
Because so many good restaurants there, too.
I know.
so-
I love the Permane brothers. Pittsburgh's awesome.
You're speaking my heart now.
My parents went to Carnegie Mellon,
Carnegie
they
Mellon,
call it,
yep.
but it's Tech maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite role? Is there something you'd like to go back and revisit?
My favorite role that I've ever done is a television show called Chance. It's on Hulu. It's me and Hugh Laurie. There are 2 seasons. You'll love it. Please watch it.
How can fans keep up with you? Where are you? Are you on social media?
Instagram. I'm on Instagram. Ethan Suplee.
Thank you so much for joining me on Comic Book Central. Enjoy Cleveland all weekend.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thanks.
All right, you longtime listeners of Comic Book Central know I love me some Looney Tunes. Voice actor Fred Tatasciore, he was in attendance. Oh, man, he is iconic. Fred not only voices Yosemite Sam and the Tasmanian Devil on the new Looney Tunes. Hey, no pressure there, right? Filling in for the vocal cords of legend Mel Blanc. But Fred brings life to characters in the universes of Marvel, DC, Star Trek, and look, it's Star Wars Day, right? He provides voices in Star Wars. Let's hear the many voices actually, of the great Fred Tatasciore.
All right, so born in New York, correct?
I was born in New York City, yes.
What kind of kid were you growing up, and when was
Still a kid.
Still a kid. Yeah, you got to be a kid at heart.
Yeah. Well, I was really into imagination. I was into crazy dreams. I was a space cadet. I was always into my own world. I was always loving to draw, play music, and do silly stuff. I recorded on my dad's tape recorder. Back in the day, we had tape recorders.
Is this a reel-to-reel?
Yeah, that's right, a little phonograph. No, and I used to just love to impersonate things I heard on the radio and television.
Were you into animation? Like, were you watching
hardcore into
Okay.
animation? So it's really funny for me to do Star Wars or Star Trek or Marvel or DC or Disney or Looney Tunes, and I was a fan of those things. And then now to do them, it's bananas.
What's the one where you signed the contract, you got the gig, you're in the studio, you're behind the mic? What's the one that made you, as fanboy, go, "Oh, this isn't happening"?
Okay. Historically, I would say relate the Star Trek show when I played Lieutenant Shax for Lower Decks. I'm a Trekkie, and my mind was blown that I got to do that. The voice of Darth Vader for Disney, that was a big deal for me. There's a few. Let me think. There's so many others where I was just like, oh, well, Looney Tunes.
I was gonna say
the most obvious was Yosemite Sam was probably one of the first voices I did tried to do as a kid. Oh no, I used to love when he'd say "charge," and I would do that voice, and all of a sudden now I'm doing it. It blasted my brain apart. I was just like, this is insane. And there are moments where, back when we would all record together, and I look at Daffy and I look at Bugs and I look at, and we're talking to each other as these characters we grew up with. And it's just astounding.
In your head you can do it. You got the gig. A lot of other people know you can do it. When you get behind the mic as Yosemite Sam, is there any part of you that goes, oh my God, and then all of a sudden Mel Blanc comes in? Like, is there any part of that comes in that starts the nerves in the stomach going?
Yes, it's a good question. For some of those voices, when they're new to you, you kind of you gotta really specialize. Like, okay, exactly get it right. You're fine, because you're also going off of somebody else's thing, so you want to get it right. So for him, I noticed for Yosemite, I always have to start with, ooh, no matter what the thing is, and then I get back in where he is. You know what I mean? And yeah, so there's a few of those. And then, of course, Tasmanian Devil, same sort of thing, but I get to add my own, very scary. I get to add my own thing to it.
How many mic covers do you have to have when you're doing Taz?
Actually, 1 or 2.
And do you hydrate? Do you have to hydrate?
I hydrate like crazy in this job. And I go off mic a lot, meaning I'm not going directly in because I'm blowing out a lot of air. So I kind of am careful where I place it. And not on anybody.
Exactly, yeah. It's the best piece of advice you have for aspiring voice actors, other than stay out of the business because I want the work. But
no, my advice is to do it, and I would say acting is first. Learn the acting. That's the most important thing. Voice stuff is important because that's your instrument, but I would say do your acting classes, learn how to build a character, learn a process for yourself to have, so you could say who's this character, what does he want, where is it going. Acting first, then record yourself a lot. Think of yourself like an instrument. So give yourself a lot of recordings and hear your own voice, and then try everything. Try different dialects, try different pitches. You may just be with one voice, and that's great, and that's awesome, but maybe you want to try around different pitches, do the opposite of what you think you are, and just, what I say is practice a lot. Like, think of it like you're playing guitar. Yeah.
How can fans find out more about you? On social media, website? What do you got?
I'm trying to get better at the socials. Instagram, I'm starting to get a little bit more better, more better, and the Facebooks. But I try, and I'm trying to put together some YouTube things. But I'll put that out, when I can.
Fred, thanks so much. Enjoy Cleveland. Thank you for taking the time today.
Love this city. My gosh, thank you so much. Wonderful to meet you. Thanks. Great questions.
All right, if you've ever been to a comic and pop culture convention in recent years, Fridays are a little light. Saturdays are bug nuts crazy, to say the least. Very tough to record content on this day. So I tend to use Saturdays to kind of walk the floor, buy some merch, fill some of those holes in the comic book collection, and to check out the Q&As, the panels that are going on. So look, it's Cleveland, right? It's the home of Superman. The home of Superman co-creators Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, right? Yeah, Superman's my favorite. I saw that the Siegel and Shuster Society had a panel discussion, so I had to get into that room for sure. To my surprise, they made a super announcement at FanExpo Cleveland, one I was not expecting. Now, some of you listeners out there might recall my Superman in Cleveland special. That was way back on episode 214, where we talked about a proposed Superman statue honoring not only the superhero himself, but the co-creators who brought us The Last Son of Krypton. That was way back in 2018. Well, guess what? That super proposal is about to become a super reality. Here are Lee Goldie, founding board secretary of the Siegel and Shuster Society, and she's Joe Shuster's cousin, and Gary Kaplan, president of the Siegel and Shuster Society.
All right, so I was coming here to the Fan Expo for Cleveland. Obviously, there's always the Superman connections. I saw they were having a Superman panel. I saw the Siegel Shuster Society. Well, let me pop in. And I wasn't really prepared for... I know I had talked about this in my 2018 special, about this. Well, you know what, Lee, why don't you go ahead and tell us exactly what was announced today here in Cleveland?
Today we announced that the Siegel Shuster Society is going to be working collaboratively with Cuyahoga County and creating the statue of Superman in Cleveland. It's going to be in downtown Cleveland.
Okay, so what we talked about back in 2018, and it was in the library, there were these sort of prototypes that were going on. This is now actually going to be in Cleveland. Can you tell us about this Odyssey, or which of you would be able to tell us better about the Odyssey? Because I think somebody mentioned this goes all the way back to 2006. I think I heard.
I can share about that because I'm a founding board member. When Mike Sangiacomo wrote an article in the Plain Dealer about we need to do something to honor and celebrate the creation of Superman in Cleveland, I came to the meeting that he held, and it was fantastic because all of the people that were there wanted to honor and celebrate Superman, but nobody was doing it. And it has taken so long. It's 2024. It's 18 years later, and we're finally saying that we're laying the foundation for the statue. It's taken a long time, but this means so much because for me, Joe Shuster is my cousin. And he and Jerry were never honored the way they should have been honored. Because they created an iconic character that if I say the word Superman in any language, every single person knows what I mean throughout the world. I don't have to translate it.
And Gary, do you recall when did you first realize that you were part of this family? When did it dawn on you that the legacy, the history of what was going on, and then how did you sort of get that manifest into becoming, into the Siegel Shuster Society?
So when I was about 6 years old, I was watching The Adventures of Superman on TV with George Reeves. There were repeats at that time. Right. And I remember my mom walking into the room and saying, what you watching? And she said, I'm watching Superman. She goes, that's your cousin. And I said, Superman's not real. How could he be my cousin?
Even at 6, come
I
on.
knew he was real. She goes, no. She says, my cousin created Superman with his best friend, Joe Shuster. And then I started learning about it.
Yeah.
And
what did your 6-year-old mind do at that point?
I couldn't believe it. I just was like, what?
Yeah.
It was shocking, actually. And so I've always been proud of that. But I didn't get involved in the Siegel Shuster Society from the beginning. Lee was at the beginning, several other people. My uncle was involved. And as he got older, he said, you should get involved in this. I'm not going to be around forever. And so I did get involved, and it wasn't long after that. He did pass away, so I'm really glad I got involved.
Yeah. So okay, one thing I know is that I just got a new license plate recently, and I had to have the Superman license plate. I tried to get Joe L, but that was no. I tried every variation of it. It was not going to happen. Yes, I just had to get some rando numbers. But I got this, and then I'm sitting here listening today. That license plate, a little bit bigger than I thought it was. I thought it was going to fix some potholes and different things. It may some of that go to it. But people that get those Superman license plates here in Ohio, that has a little connection here, doesn't it?
They're helping to fund the Superman statue. And we're so excited about that. We want to make sure that we're honoring and celebrating Superman with regular, ordinary people in Cleveland. And those are the people who are supporting the beginning of this statue.
And I saw a comic book being held up today during the Q&A. What is there a connection there? What's going on with the comic? It was one of those early Superman issues.
It was Superman issue 16, I believe,
yeah.
And it is highlighting the Superman statue with Cleveland in the background.
Okay,
so,
is it based on that image, or is it just sort of an homage to the statue?
It's an homage to the statue. We just brought that because of the connection.
Okay, so there's that little connection going on. So maybe DC Comics at some point will do like an homage. Yeah. Are they in touch with DC, or do you have is anybody on speed dial there? Or?
So I am personally not one of the board members that's in touch with DC. So
okay.
I'm saying this just from a lay perspective.
Right.
I would love to have them do something in an issue to honor the creation of Superman in Cleveland, but I can't promise that they're going to. This is just from a fan statement, not a board member statement.
And where's this thing going to be? So if you're coming into Cleveland, and they talked about, they had one of the pictures, but where can folks see this eventually when this is premiered?
So it'll be at the newly expanded Cleveland Convention Center on the corner of Ontario and St. Clair. And there's going to be a plaza there. It's going to be called the Siegel Shuster Tribute Plaza.
What all is going to be going on there?
There's going to be a big ballroom right there with big, huge windows. So everybody that's in that ballroom for whatever event it is, a wedding, whatever, they can see through the window all these statues, not just Superman, but the creators, Jerry Siegel, Joe Shuster, and then Joanne Siegel, who was the original model for Lois Lane, who years later married Jerry Siegel.
Oh, that's going to be fantastic. Do we know when...
And a telephone booth. With Jerry Siegel's clothes.
Yes, of course.
With Clark Kent's clothes,
okay.
Inside the phone booth.
He left him in the
in his glass eyeglass, too.
What was he thinking? Leaving him in the phone booth for everybody to see.
No place to put him because he had to fly to save somebody's life.
So I know you can't announce exactly the date. I mean, things take time. Things take time to build. Things always happen. But what are you proposing? Like, what are you hoping for in a best case scenario as to when folks can maybe finally see this?
Our goal is April of 2025.
Okay. So possibly
that's a goal for the unveiling.
Okay, so possibly by next year's FanExpo, we might be able to see something. Okay.
Yeah, we can never predict because there's always going to be roadblocks that we'll run into, and we have no idea what those roadblocks will be yet. But we're hoping that we can say in a year, at least a year, this will be unveiled.
Okay. And we know this year is going to be huge for Cleveland and Superman because James Gunn is going to be coming here. He's going to be filming. Do you know anything about that? Have you heard anything? Or are you trying to get in as a background extra? Or what can you tell us about anything that's going on with that?
I know that I want to be an extra. I don't know anything else about it, honestly, just because I'm not connected to that. I saw the article in the newspaper saying that we're going to have the opportunity to be extras in the movie, so I'm so looking forward to that. And I just love that they're basing this version of Superman in Cleveland, Ohio, because it is so representative of Jerry and Joe creating that iconic character right here in Northeast Ohio.
Yeah, it's huge. And so where can listeners go to support this project? Where can they go to learn more about the Siegel Shuster Society? Give us all the the socials, the website, everything.
I would go to the Siegel Shuster Society Facebook page. Our website's kind of under reconstruction right now, but if you go to our society webpage, our Facebook page, you can get all kinds of information. We're posting every couple times a week, and there's information about the James Gunn movie and how to become an extra. And now that we just released about a half hour ago that the statue's moving forward with great speed, there's going to be information about that very soon.
We'll put it over the top. I got to ask that. Like, it's this 20-plus year odyssey, whatever it is, or close to 20-year odyssey. What finally put it over the top? What was the selling point on this that got it moving forward?
I think the gentleman that was sitting next to me at the table, Pernell Jones, was instrumental in helping us get the idea put in front of the right people and find a way to create a location for this statue. That was our hurdle. We had the statue designed, but we didn't have a place to put it. And so now we hope, I don't want to jinx it, we have a place to put it, and we're going to be able to move forward with it.
And tell our listeners who Pernell is.
He is the president of the Cuyahoga County Council.
Okay.
And so
he found the land, got all the T's crossed, the I's dotted, whatever it needed to be. He kind of greased those wheels to make sure those things happen, right?
Correct.
And he's a comic book fan too, and he brought the Superman comic book. So, folks, much success, continued success with this, and we'll keep us posted. Let us know what's going on. We'll watch the Facebook page. Hopefully, we'll see the statue going up as we speak.
Just to be clear, we do have a written agreement with the county and the convention center. So, and there's all the important signatures on it.
Always helps, yes. To get it in writing.
And we've already provided funds for construction of the footers for the statue, electrical, many other things. We paid that recently. So we're
up and away. It's happening. So, thanks so much and continued success.
Thank you.
And that is a wrap on FanExpo 2024. FanExpoHQ.com. That's where you want to be to find out about all of their events, including FanExpo 2025. I can't wait for that one. My thanks to my guests today, Jerry Milani, Brent Spiner, Ethan Suplee, Fred Tatasciore, Lee Goldie, Gary Kaplan. As I mentioned earlier, links to everything we talked about today, you know where to find them. The show notes for this episode at my website, comicbookcentral.net. Easy peasy, everything in one place. And share the lair. Share this episode with everyone you know. It's Free Comic Book Day. Tell everyone at the local comic book shop that Comic Book Central needs to be the #1 show in their podcast queue. Just move it on up. Listen to it each and every time I release an episode. Love when you folks get the word out. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts. That helps as well. I am out of here for now, but I'm going to be back before you know it. I'm working on 2 Major League episodes, trying to get those on the schedule as we speak. 2 guests I've been trying to chat with for quite some time now. So looking forward to that. Follow Comic Book Central on the socials. Facebook.com/Comic Book Central Network. Don't forget the network. Twitter at Comic Book CTRL. When I record those interviews, I'm going to let you know. I'll let you know when they're going to air. Enjoy your free funny books. May the 4th be with you. Until next time, keep safe. Keep reading those comics. And thanks for joining me here in the lair. Comic Book Central, where comic books come to life. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Comic Book Central. All other content and names are registered trademarks and copyrights of their respective holders.
Hey, Harry, how about a picture?
Yeah, okay.
It's self-focusing.
Oh.
Wow, my picture with Beta? Thanks, Brent. You're the best.
My pleasure. Live long and whatever.
They'll never believe you when you tell them who took that picture.